I am your host right here on Yachting International Radio, and I am very pleased to have as a guest today Marc of Bluebnc. You are the founder of Bluebnc, are you not?
Yes, indeed, Ria. Thank you very much for having me here.
Well, do you know what? You came to my attention the other day because I spend quite a bit of time on social media, that you were looking at ways to become a carbon negative company. Now, we're really passionate here at Yachting International Radio in regards to the environment and sustainability, climate change, et cetera. And so I found it really interesting, especially in an industry that is really well known for its consumption in every aspect. And I was really interested how a company such as yours, that you are a chartering company essentially, correct?
Yeah, we are.
So I was really interested. Yeah, how a company like yours could go about not only becoming carbon neutral, but carbon negative.
Well, let me explain you. I think it's not an easy thing to do, but if you're confident about it and you plan it well, I think we will be able to achieve it. We are a charter operator, meaning that we do not manage actually most of the charters that we sell, but we sell these charters online, or we sell them, through our network. And we've come to the point where we understand that our customers can afford to have a carbon negative lifestyle without changing their actual lifestyle. So what we want to do for next year is to make sure that every single charter that we sell and anything that we do as a company is offset, not by taking the easiest way of just going ahead and buying some carbon credits from some trader, if not by actually going down to where we have an activity and trying to offset our activity in that region. So mainly right now in the Balearic Islands, next year in Miami and the Caribbean. So what we want to achieve is, first eliminating CO2 from the ocean, second, eliminating plastics from the ocean, and then try to get, out there the word to have many other companies following us, and, all the companies that we work with, try to get them to learn from us and do it the same way. This is not something that we want our customers to pay for directly. Of course, they will be paying for it indirectly because they pay our bills and they pay our commissions. But it's not something that we're just going to charge them for. It's something that we will be taking out of our margins, something that we will be doing because we want to make sure that we're here in 10 years, or we're here in 20 years, or we're here in 50 years. And especially because our generation, millennials, Generation X, and so on, we all believe that it's something that customers are demanding, and there are not many companies there, just doing it. I'm a capitalist. I believe in free economics. I believe in people starting companies and making money out of it to help society. And I believe I have a lot of friends that do not share my same values, but also very concerned about the environment. And I love the ideas that most of them have, but I do not think this is a problem that we can solve in a hippie way, to put it somehow. I think it's a problem that we need to solve in a capitalist way. I mean, we cannot just, pull the plug and suddenly stop all our activity. We cannot just sell all the boats or fire all the crew. We need to keep that activity going, but we need to do it responsibly. And we need to make sure that we can keep on doing that in 20 years. I was in Cannes 2 weeks and Monaco, and soon we'll be all in Barcelona. And you see electric boats, you see, very eco-friendly hulls, and you see boats with less consumption. But at the end of the day, all of these boats got to be produced and got to be manufactured, which still has, a huge impact on the environment. And we'll still have crews that will have to fly, all the way around the world to get to the ship, whenever crew change. So I think it's a bit more about understanding everything that we do and what the impact of that is on, on the environment. And taking it from there, buying a new boat, does not offset the pollution of the previous boat that you've just sold and maybe no one, will be using. So just buying, new and more modern things is just, a very, say, consumer-minded way of doing it, but it doesn't really change things for the environment. So that's what we're going to try and do, just offset locally, understand what we're doing. I don't want to use, as many other companies are doing, the Greta Thunberg, thing as an excuse. I think, that's a very good thing that they're doing, but I don't think that's really the way of going forward. I mean, a captain friend of mine just mentioned on Facebook the other day, Marc, if you're listening to us, he mentioned, that these 40 million individuals that have gone on some strike, last Friday around the world, if each one of them had picked up half kilo of plastic or 1 kilo of plastic, it will be 40 millions of plastic that we've taken out of the oceans, or 40 million, tons of CO2 that we've taken out of the air. So I don't think it's a moment about, going on about how bad we are and how terrible we're doing and how dare you do this to me. She puts it, I think it's a moment of, to act and to do something responsibly without completely destroying our lifestyle or, our system.
Well, I think in today's day and age, I mean, we definitely are at a stage that we are capable of living our best lives, but doing it in a responsible manner. If we can send a man to a moon, how many years ago, and the things that we are capable of doing and producing, and you see all sorts of youngsters nowadays. I mean, you see kids, school kids coming out of the UK that are, with biodegradable plastic, and times are changing, and it is possible to live the luxury that the yachting industry desires, but in a responsible fashion. Correct. One thing that I wanted to get back to, and we sort of discussed this a little bit off screen, was carbon offsetting. Yeah. Now, we were talking about the fact that not too long ago, Prince Harry and his new wife, Meghan, they were invited to visit Elton John. And of course, they went via private jet, and there was a huge uproar straight across the planet about the fact that, the carbon footprint they were leaving, and they were supposed to be, campaigners for the planet. And with Elton John stating that he did his part with the carbon offsetting. Now, I'm just not sure how feasible that is, to be honest, because yes, if you're wealthy and you have the ability to give $1 million, not only pay for that private jet or that private yacht to get you where you want to go, but then you want to pay that $1 million extra to offset how is that balancing? And how can you make sure that the money that you are paying is going into the correct place for that carbon offsetting?
That's a very good question. So that's why I told you before, that I wanted to focus on very local activities by finding the right people to do it with. Because once you start, reviewing all the different, offerings of carbon credits, you realize that, especially there's this very weird and super wide price span. So you go from €3 a ton all the way up to 99 euros a ton. So you think as a company, it's like, of course, I'll buy the €3 one, but is that a real carbon credit? And that's when you start to review and realize that it's not a real carbon credit, it's just a scam, like so many others. And over the last 10 years, there's been many scams where, fraudulent companies have gotten investors into buying carbon credits, thinking that would be the business of the future, that companies will go crazy about buying carbon credits. And at the end of the day, that's all, from my point of view, a lot of BS. I believe that the future of offsetting is understanding what you're doing with that money, doing it responsibly, and acting locally, thinking very globally, but acting locally, because it's us Europeans and Americans understanding that it's time to do something. But at the end of the day, 85% of the bad things, plastic emissions and everything, are coming from the other side of the world, from Asia. So we can do a lot of it over here, but we also got to teach them how to work, and we've got to be responsible with what we buy and who we buy it from. So with that, what I'm trying to say, when we buy our clothes, for example, we decided to just buy, for next year, clothes made in Europe. We bought this thinking that it was Norwegian. Then you realize that it's not Norwegian. That it's actually made in China as well. So, first of all, source everything you buy in Europe. Try to get it, from suppliers that are already concerned about the environment and, that know how to do it. And then try to have a very, local offsetting activities where you go down and say, well, even Mallorca, for example, where we are right now, we realize that we have an issue with seaweed, and we have seaweed disappearing. First of all, this year already, all our yachts have respected, the limitations of where we can anchor and where we cannot. Most of yachts are not really doing it. You can still see, huge yachts, very nice yachts, just anchoring over the Posidonia, which is terrible. So we started with that. Towards next year, we want to help them go and plant Posidonia, see what we can do, not Posidonia, but seaweed that helps offsetting the CO2, either by using more alkaline products that help the growth of these plants, that helps offsetting the CO2. And again, it's a lot that we still have to review, but I believe in doing it locally. I believe in, as we were talking before, getting plastic out of the beaches. If we can put, say, 2 days a month of our team, then instead of sitting on the office or washing down boats, we can go out there and get some plastic out of the beaches. It's not a huge cost for the company, but it would be a huge impact. The same thing, when we wash down our boats, we can be more conscious about water. I mean, we have some of our boats in Naviera Balear here in Palma. And I was actually yesterday on one of the boats, And there's this huge fleet. I'm of course not going to name any company, but there's a huge fleet of sailing jugs, and you see all of them just letting the water run while they're doing something else because they're too lazy to go down, to go back to shore and just close the tap. And you realize, we've lost the vision somewhere along the way. It's like, how do you even there, on an island where we have no water, how do you even there to have the tap running for so long when you're not even using that water?
Yeah.
Or boats that get washed every single day. We don't do that anymore. We used to, but we don't do that anymore. And honestly, we don't pay for the water. Water is included in our mooring fee, so we shouldn't really care about water as a cost, but we care of water as an environmental cost to society and to the world, and that's also something that you need to do. But the real aspect is to understand what your pollution is. I mean, the first time someone told me what a 65-foot motor jet pollution was in 1 hour, 1 hour of fuel consumption, and we were talking, close to 500 kilograms. That was surprising, and it's like 500 kilograms of CO2. That boat goes out, say, 70, 80 days a year, and it does every day, say, 2 to 3 hours of engine time. So you have 1.5 tons times 80, 150 tons in just a short season, and that's crazy. When you measure my flight, for example, to the US, a flight from London to the US in economy, it's already 1 point something tons. So 1 point something tons just to get there, and it's 300 passengers on that plane, so that's 300 tons. So I think, as a company first, you've got to understand what your real impact is, and then just, for me, act local, or buy carbon credits from very responsible sources. But then, of course, you have to pay the price for it. Going back to your example, with the private jet, I don't think there's nothing wrong, with offsetting if you buy it from the right place. As we said, I mean, we all, live on these guys spending so much money as they do. All the crew, all the captains, we, the charter operators, we need these guys spending tens of thousands of euros a day. We need them. I mean, if we were, if any polluting industry was just to say, well, we are too bad for the environment and we're just going to shut down, it would actually be, a civil war, because how many people would be unemployed? If everyone would stop, transporting themselves, many people would lose their jobs. So I think it's about all of us doing it responsibly, starting, with us that have higher margins and that have people that would actually value that. But it's about understanding what your impact is. It's about buying it from the right place and not trying to do it the cheapest way. As I said before, we're not going to charge our customers directly for these, but they would be paying for it. And the day that we're going to be profitable, we'll just have to raise our prices a bit. And I'm 100% sure that most of our customers will be happy paying for it. And honestly, if they are the type of customer that doesn't give, doesn't really care about the environment, then they shouldn't be renting a boat with us. They should be renting it with someone else, because it's probably not the nicest customer to have on board, not the nicest guest to sail with.
You do have a point there, because at the end of the day, if a customer is going to be the kind of person that just really doesn't give a crap, as it were,
exactly,
about the environment, they're not going to give much of a crap about anything else either. So it's
exactly.
probably something that you don't want on board one of your yachts, period.
Correct.
I was going to mention that there is a lot of ways. I mean, we talk about offsetting the carbon, but there's a lot of ways that you can do it on land as well. I mean, it's not just about at sea. It's not just about plastic bottles and those sorts of things. I mean, there's planting trees, for example. You were saying about planting, generating green energy, of course, electric motors, improving energy efficiency, lithium batteries. I'm not sure about lithium batteries. I have to do some research on that one, but hydro generation, solar sails, wind generation. There's so many different things nowadays that we are capable of just making such a tiny little change that actually, does a great thing for the environment with that tiny change.
I agree, and we've already started doing some of that. We've actually sold two of the most polluting vehicles that we had just this month in September. With that in mind, something else that we're reviewing, we'll be most likely also doing on land. We'll be planting hemp. I don't know if you've heard about hemp. There are so many other things. One of my ex-business partners, they're working with CBD in Colorado, cannabidiol, which right now is becoming very popular. And then, of course, you extract it from hemp. And, I started reviewing hemp, and that's when I really become conscious about it. Hemp is actually the fastest growing tree in absorbing CO2. And I'll tell you why. You plant hemp, and in less than 100 days, you have a 4 meter tall tree that's already absorbing CO2. So if you were planting a normal tree, it will take the tree 15 years to, really start absorbing a considerable amount of CO2. So one thing that we have already started even paying for is that we're going to be planting hemp in Lleida, in mainland Spain, mainly because we want to see as a company what we can do out of that hemp. If we can do honestly a business out of it, if we can start doing some kind of fabrics, that we can use in the yachting industry, or go back to the ropes that were actually, made from hemp, see what we can do from that. It's not a huge investment. We put 30,000 euros there in trying, try and see what we can do out of it. And honestly, it's a huge, I think, marketing investment. As I see it, I mean, honestly, I do this selfishly, because you want the company to live long and you want everything to go well. But also you do this because it's many times cheaper than marketing. I mean, just in Mallorca, we spent, I think during the month of August, 70,000 euros in Google, which is, a lot of money. If instead of putting money in doing that, you could put in something else that would give you still a lot of repercussion that will create this buzz. Look, it's a good investment and we should try it. But yes, we've started with hemp on land. We haven't done anything else yet, but we've started with hemp. We're really planting hemp in Lleida from November. And I think that's going to be very interesting. Let's see what we can get out of it. Let's see if someone comes and helps us, get something out of that hemp. But in theory, it got more than 25,000 uses, so I'm sure we'll get to do something.
Well, I mean, yeah, hemp has uses for everything, and actually, the end product of hemp, whether it be clothing or items, those things are actually biodegradable and go back into the environment as well. So not only are you as a business investing in something that actually has huge potential to bring you profit, but at the same time, and this is just a prime example of you being able to live your best life while still living in a democratic society where you're capable of making money and investing money and making more money, capitalism. It's hand in hand and it's capable of working, but we just have to think about how we're going to be able to do that, I think. And that is probably one of the biggest issues that people are a bit lazy about, I do believe, straight across the board. We're just so used to things being a certain way that we don't think that we need to change it or it's too much trouble to change it. But when you look at the way that you have, you're taking a look at how you can profit from that change.
I mean, I don't think there's other way to look at it as a company. We get criticism so many times about what we do. And, I remember years ago, I used to drive this car, that had a huge petrol engine. And I was in Barcelona and someone was shouting at me, like, how do you dare, drive with this car? But back then I wasn't really conscious about it. But back then there were not so many people shouting about it either. Right now, as a company, if you want to survive and you want to think long term, you've got to consider what's your impact to society. And if you think of it selfishly, the best way to find a solution is to do something that is good for everyone. But you're still doing that selfishly to keep your business, to keep your market size, to maintain and grow your revenue, and that's the only way of doing it. I mean, I don't think millennials, once they get enough buying power that they can afford to rent one of our, 100,000 euros a week job, I don't think they're really going to be very happy when we tell them what's the emissions that our, 1,800 horsepower engines, are actually, throwing out. So if we do that, if we cannot change the engines, or we will, change the engine with the years, but again, we cannot just throw away a job that is 3 years old or 4 years old. But us, we keep on using and say, well, we just want to tell you that this is what the emissions are going to be for your week charter. And this is what the operational emissions of your week charter are, from what we're doing. But this is what we're doing to offset these, and this is what we've done to offset that. And this is how we want to make, we want you to make sure that everything you're doing during this week, you're going to have a lot of fun. You're going to, live the life that you deserve. Because for some reason, someone's giving you the money to be able to pay for it. So either you are working very hard, or you're very rich, or you've got a very rich family. But we want you to feel okay with what you do. And one thing that really got me thinking and really got me to do this, is that I read this article in The Economist, and it was talking about the flight shame that they're right now experiencing in Scandinavia, where people don't really want to travel, don't want to go anywhere, because they realize what the impact is of that travel. Yeah. So you should give these people the chance to keep on traveling without, having that shame of going anywhere, because we can still do it. I mean, there is technology, there are the assets, there's ways of changing things without just completely destroying the system.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the way that you're approaching it as well is that while you have these charter guests on board, you are enabling them to understand that they still can do everything that they want their money to avail them of, as it were. But at the same time, they're being kinder to the environment, even more kind than they would imagine possible, I can imagine. So this is something that they're going to take home with them, and they're going to take to their next experience, because if they're wealthy enough to charter with you for a week in the Med, you can be guaranteed that's not the only charter they're going to be doing this year. So that will set the bar for the next charter and the charter after that, which means that will sort of have a knock-on effect, I think, throughout the industry with every charter company that they come across. Well, we've just had a charter with this company and this is what they're doing. Now, we'd like to charter with you and spend €1 million, but can you do this? And if you can't, well, we're going to find somebody who can. So, I mean, I think it's a great incentive that you guys are putting out there, and that you're the first ones that I have come across in searching the World Wide Web. I think that's kudos to you, right here out of Mallorca, and setting the bar for the rest of the industry. It's nice to see.
Thank you very much, Ria.
So, well, I know you're a busy man and I'm going to let you go, but I hope you do stay in touch. And I would really like to sort of follow up with you in maybe a month or two, and see if you've had any more plans or any more changes, or things are moving forward, or if there's anything we could do to help you here at Yachting International Radio.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Ria. Thank you very much for your time. Have a good day.
Thank you. That was Marc of Bluebnc. We will provide his details after this is on air, and of course up on YouTube and everything else. This has been Ria for Coffee and Conversation right here on Yachting International Radio.